What's up, everybody? Marvel the Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback. Today we are looking at Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 44. And Spider-Man is going to meet the X-Men, all of the X-Men today. Today's title is Tampered. And so what could that be about? What has been tampered? We're going to find all this out as we continue to look more into this Geldoff character as well. And so remember from last issue, we saw that at Peter's school, the school basically said, y'all need to go home because of the mutant threat that with Geldoff and everything that's going on. So all the students were let home early, but Peter was not seen with all the students when they got picked up. And Aunt May is just furious at this point, trying to figure out where Peter Parker is at. She's had trouble with Peter in the past for showing up home late or being missing all the time. And Gwen doesn't know where Peter is at either. She doesn't know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And so we see that she gets a phone call and she answers, and it just so happens to be Mr. Ayers. This is Peter Parker's geometry teacher, and he's basically saying to her, look, he didn't show up in class, and there's something I need to tell you. He's a great student and all. He's a straight A whiz, but when it comes to skipping my class, I don't appreciate that, and he wasn't there before the emergency. And so Aunt May now is starting to panic a little bit because she now understands that Peter was not at school when the principal of the school announced the students were going to go home. So now Aunt May is worried that Peter Parker has come into some bad company or something bad has happened to him. And she says, I'm begging you, Gwen, if you know where he is. And she said, I swear to goodness I don't. It said, we walked to school and that was the last I saw him. I didn't even notice he was gone until the teacher started yelling. And so we see that the door to the basement is locked. She tries to open it, and so she's going to then grab this fire extinguisher and she's going to basically, slam the thing on the door handle here until the door handle falls off. Aunt May is not playing around at this point. But let's go see what Peter Parker is up to. We recall how Peter Parker was plummeting out of that Blackbird jet thanks to Geldoff exploding the jet. And it looks like Peter Parker is in the library of the X-Mansion reading something from Ben Urich here about the Kingpin's failure and his demise. And all of a sudden, Peter Parker is waking up here and he is surrounded by all of the members of the X-Men. Wolverine is not here, but we see that Cyclops is here. We got Marvel Girl, Storm, Colossus, Beast, and Kitty Pryde, as well as Professor Xavier, are looking in on Peter Parker. And one thing Peter is going to realize is that they've unmasked him. And we see that I guess Charles Xavier knows the identity of Spider-Man at this point. He calls him Peter. And so he's like, oh, wait a minute. What happened? And Storm is going to give a retelling of what happened. So basically, with this whole scenario with the Blackbird falling down, we see that Jean Grey and Storm are going to switch positions here. Jean Grey, as Marvel Girl, is going to save Spider-Man and Geldoff, while Storm is going to help Kitty Pryde. And she says, hold on, kitty cat. And so we see that Marvel Girl was responsible for saving the life of Spider-Man and Geldoff. And while all this is taking place, we see that Peter Parker realizes that they've taken off his mask. And says, oh, come on. He said, you took off my mask? B says, we wanted to make sure you were still breathing. Peter says, man, I am trying to keep a secret identity here. No one respects my secret identity. No one. One secret, that's all I want. I want to put on the mask and keep it on, and every time I turn around, someone somewhere finds out I'm Peter Parker. And this is true. We have Dr. Kirk Connors. He knows who Peter Parker is. As Spider-Man, we know that Eddie Brock knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. We know Mary Jane also knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And so we see that finally Aunt May is in the basement. She's trying to figure out where would Peter Parker be going. Where's he at? He gets on his computer. He's asking for a password. No luck there. And then she comes across this. That's a part of Spider-Man's mask. So, that's not good. So back at the X-Mansion, we see Geldoff is hooked up to this machine. It looks like he's been given some sort of gas that keeps him calm. And Spider-Man is going to have a conversation with Professor Xavier about exactly what Professor Xavier's intentions are with Geldoff. Because we're going to find out here that part of Professor Xavier's equipment, Cerebro, cannot detect whether he is a mutant or a human. And so we see here that Geldoff is an anomaly in some way. And what we find out here is that before Geldoff was even born, when he was just a tiny fetus in his mother's womb, he was experimented upon because, as women know, there's a placenta that every human gets, and the placenta dies once the person is born. But we see that that placenta was injected with the mutant gene. And this is how we see 15 years later, Geldoff has these powers. He didn't have a choice. He was given these powers through experimentation. And Professor Xavier is going to do some research as to who is responsible for experimenting on Geldoff like this. So Spider-Man is still being very skeptical here. He doesn't want any harm to come on Geldoff here, and he knows about the X-Men and what they've done in the past and how they're heroes, but he's still, as a young, adolescent here, he's still not trusting the authority of Professor Xavier here. And so he's like, is Geldoff going to live a normal life? And he says, a normal life? Define that. And then Peter says, define this, fuzzball, and gives Beast one heck of a left hook here. And he's going to then kidnap Geldoff and try to make a run for it. He almost runs into Kitty Pryde. And what we're going to find out is this is all just an illusion in Spider-Man's mind. So Professor Xavier can do that. It's part of his power here. And so Professor Xavier says, Peter, you've read my work. You know what my X-Men stand for. I promise that this young man will be treated with respect and that good, true good will come from this. And as far as Geldoff's rather ignorant point of view on the mutant experience, he and I will have a talk. And Geldoff says, dude, I wasn't really going to fight you or nothing. I was just showing off. I do that sometimes. We're cool. And so Spider-Man's like, oh, okay. And then he's like, oh my gosh, what time is it? I got to get back to Queens. And so finally Peter Parker makes it back to his home, Aunt May's home in Queens here, and he's going to then be confronted by a very angry Aunt May saying, we need to talk. And so we'll find out exactly what that talk is going to be about coming up next in issue number 45. Hope to see you there. But before we look at issue number 45, go ahead now and give this video a like. Comment down below what you liked about this issue, and subscribe if you have not, and I will see y'all in the next one.